We'll move on to a new subject here, to another subject. We will have Elias Kariabas from ABS. Elias, I will just have to remind you, no technical stuff, eh?
No technical stuff.
No technical stuff.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Good afternoon to everybody. We are going to speak about ballast water management new developments. I will try to be fast. I hope to keep up with me. So, as of 1st October 2012, 36 member states representing 29.07% of the world's gross tonnage have ratified the convention, with Denmark being the latest member states to do so in September 2012. At MEPC 64, the delegations of Argentina, Belgium, and Germany, 1.7% of the world's gross tonnage, indicated that the process of ratifying the convention is in the final or advanced stage in their countries. It is speculated that Singapore, 5.36% of world's gross tonnage, is working towards ratification. This table indicates the implementation schedule for the 2004 Ballast Water Management Convention, revised by latest resolutions. Should the convention enter into force in 2014 or 2015, the dates for retrofitting existing vessels having a ballast water capacity of between 1,500 and 5,000 cubic meters would be required to be added to the approximately 9,000 ships that will be required to be fitted with a system as a new ship constructed after 2009. It will be a huge undertaking made more serious by the need for additional repair yard capacity to undertake this work. Some circulars. Circular 21. This questionnaire may be used by interested parties to select and acquire ballast water management systems and may assist in the required evaluation and comparison of the different systems. 29. Addressing those ships constructed from 1st of January 2009 to 1st of January 2012 and have ballast capacity greater than 5,000 cubic meters. These ships will be required to comply with the D2 standard not later than the first intermediate or renewal survey, ballast water management survey carried out, which occurs first after the anniversary date of delivery of the ship in 2016. The committee associated with the task of developing ballast water regulations, including regulations related to the implementation of the Ballast Water Management Convention, is MEPC. The MEPC is supported by the Bulk, Liquids and Gases, or BLG subcommittee, and the Flag State Implementation, or FSI subcommittee. Noting that a limited number of ballast water management systems have so far been installed, the industry continues to have concerns regarding the operational performance of the available systems, and perhaps more importantly, how these initial systems will be treated by port states. After an excessive debate and taking into consideration the limited number of installations and the industry concerns, the committee agreed to the development of an assembly resolution which could address such concerns. The intent of this resolution is to ease and facilitate the smooth implementation of the convention and not to change the application dates. The development of a unified interpretation was agreed with measures to ensure compliance with mobile offshore units with the convention. It was agreed that the new installation of systems is not considered as a major conversion. The committee agreed that the circular could facilitate the implementation of the provisions of the Ballast Water Management Convention in the particular case of offshore supply vessels. It was noted by the committee that the Republic of Korea submitted a paper stating that by the year 2020, more than 60,000 ballast water management systems would be manufactured in the Republic of Korea alone. In addition, other delegations expressed the views that large capabilities exist within shipyards to install ballast water management systems. All these agreements are subject to review by MEPC 65 in May. Activity of BLG 17. The purpose for the guidance to ballast water sampling and analysis for trial use contained in the draft circular is to provide general recommendations on the methodologies and approaches to sampling and analysis to test for compliance with D1 and D2 standards. Many of the sampling and test methods in the draft circular have not been adequately validated and have not been fully integrated in port state control procedures in order to validate the practical utility for determining compliance with the convention. Once the convention enters into force, a trial period will be initiated where a port state control can further trial the approaches in the circular to ensure that they are practical and fit for purpose. This trial period should be 2 to 3 years following the entry into force of the convention. BLG also developed a draft resolution detailing the options for ballast water management for offshore support vessels in accordance with the Ballast Water Management Convention. FSI 21 activity. Following a discussion, the subcommittee established a correspondence group to develop the guidelines for port state control under the Ballast Water Management Convention for finalization at FSI 22. It was agreed that the correspondence group would not commence work until after MEPC 65. The subcommittee agreed to continue the development of draft IMO guidelines for port state control inspection, not to discuss any particular ballast water sampling or analysis methodology until the appropriate methodology or protocols have been agreed by IMO, and to submit a written report and draft guidelines to FSI 22. In view of the above, the subcommittee invited MEPC 65 to extend the target completion year to the output to 2014. Compliance testing for ballast water discharges occurs via the following procedures, which can be described as a 4-stage inspection. The first stage, the initial inspection, should focus on documentation and ensuring that an officer has been appointed for ballast water management on board the ship and to be responsible for the ballast water management system, and that the officer has been trained and knows how to operate it. If anything is amiss, the port state control officer will move to the second stage, the detailed inspection, where the operation of the ballast water management system is checked, and the port state control officer clarifies whether the system has been operated adequately according to the ballast water management plan and the operations, conditions, and indicators verified during type approval procedures. Sampling is likely to occur at the first stage of the inspection. This relies on indicative analysis using small or full-scale sampling to identify whether the ship is exceeding the D2 standard and or whether detailed analysis is necessary to ascertain compliance. The fourth tier, if necessary, should incorporate detailed analysis and full-scale sampling to detect compliance or non-compliance with the D2 standard. We have to keep up with the time. So as of today, IMO has granted basic approval to 42 systems and final approval to 28. It is our understanding that there are an additional 20 systems which are under development. Owners are encouraged to consult with their flag state relative to the acceptance of the ballast water management systems approved by other member states. Ballast water management in the United States. This site, which we found in the US Geological website, simply represents in a visual display of the spread of the zebra mussels throughout the United States from their arrival in 1986 from either the Black Sea or Baltic Sea until 2011. U.S. Coast Guard regulatory developments. These regulations became effective on 21st of June 2012. This rule applies to two groups of vessels discharging ballast water in the U.S. First, the first group is comprised of those vessels currently required to conduct ballast water exchange. And the second group, which previously was not required to conduct ballast water exchange, is comprised of seagoing vessels that do not operate beyond the exclusive economic zone, that take on and discharge ballast water in more than captain of the port zone and are greater than 3,000 GRT, International Tonnage Convention 69. The Coast Guard, noting that the IMO discharge standard is practicable, achievable, and provides a level of protection that it is at least as effective as ballast water exchange, has incorporated the IMO D2 standard into the regulations. However, the Coast Guard believes that future work and development may result in a better understanding of the need for more stringent standards and the development of improved technologies for treating ballast water. Regarding the documentation, a ballast water management plan is required. Report ballast information including number of ballast tanks, volume of ballast water on board, origin of ballast water to be discharged into the U.S. waters. Ballast water management practices should avoid uptake or discharge in sensitive areas, minimize or avoid uptake in areas known to have infestations, clean tanks regularly to remove sediments, discharge only the minimal amount of ballast water essential for vessels operating in the waters of the United States. Acceptable ballast water management options are installing and operate a ballast water management system that has been approved by the Coast Guard, use only water from the US public water system, perform a complete ballast water exchange unless the vessel is required to employ an approved system as per the implementation schedule, use of alternate management system, no ballast water discharge into the waters of the United States, and discharge to a facility onshore or another vessel for purposes of treatment. AMS was included in the regulations to allow for the continued flow of waterborne commerce to and from the United States, while providing the highest practicable level of environmental protection. As indicated on this slide, to be eligible for an AMS determination, a system must be previously type approved by an administration in accordance with the IMO Ballast Water Management Convention. The temporary acceptance of an AMS will be subject to reviews under NEPA, ESA, and other environmental policy laws. The Coast Guard will inspect ballast water management systems as part of their normal port state control inspection and their domestic vessel inspections. Once ballast water management systems are type approved by the Coast Guard and available for a given class, type of vessels, or specific vessels, those vessels will no longer be able to install AMS in lieu of type approved systems. As indicated on the slide, the vessel using an AMS ballast water management system that was installed on the vessel prior to the date that the vessel would be required to comply with the US Coast Guard discharge standard, the vessel may continue to employ such AMS for no longer than 5 years from the date that it would otherwise be required to comply with the discharge standard. It must be ensured that the AMS is maintained and operated in conformity with the system specifications. On April 15, US Coast Guard announced various models from 8 different ballast water management manufacturers that were accepted as an AMS. This list is developed based on information provided by IMO by the flag states. Implementation schedule for ballast water discharge standards. Ballast water exchange remains a viable option until the vessel is required to employ an approved system. With respect to dry docking, please note that scheduled dry docking refers to an out-of-water dry docking and not to an underwater inspection in lieu of dry docking. The vessel should maintain a vessel-specific ballast water management plan. It is our understanding that the Coast Guard will be, during their inspection, verifying that specific text addressing sentiment management is provided in the ballast water management plan, or a sentiment management plan is referenced by the ballast water management plan. The industry should expect the US Coast Guard inspectors to question the master and relevant crew regarding their understanding of the new requirements and their personal responsibilities under the ship's ballast water management plan. The Coast Guard will continue to inspect vessel compliance with reporting, record-keeping, and ballast water management requirements. As indicated on the slide, EPA issued the proposed VGP2 in November 2011. The final one on the 28th of March 2013, and it is coming into effect on the 19th of December 2013. The final permit includes several significant changes from the proposed one. Addition of maximum discharge limitations for certain biocides and residuals in the ballast water discharge, alignment of the new construction definition consistent to the US Coast Guard final rule definition, alignment of dry docking definition to the one of US Coast Guard, exemption from meeting the numeric concentration treatment standards for certain vessels, including inland and certain seagoing vessels, adds requirements for vessels entering the Great Lakes from sea to conduct ballast water treatment and exchange saltwater flushing, requires electronic record keeping, eliminates the one-time report and annual non-compliance report, and consolidates these reporting requirements into one annual report. Sampling and monitoring records are to be retained on board the vessel for 3 years. The 2013 VGP also requires training of the master operator, person in charge, and crew members. Means to verify the VGP technology-based effluent limits. You can either use a US Coast Guard approved or accepted treatment device. You can have onshore treatment, use of potable water, and no discharge. The implementation schedule is equivalent to the US Coast Guard one, not the IMO, it's wrongly written here. Ballast water monitoring. The functional test is intended to confirm that the system is functioning as designed. The ballast water system monitoring equipment is to be calibrated on at least an annual basis or as recommended by the equipment manufacturer. The biological component of the requiring monitoring calls for samples to be taken to confirm that the system is effective against the indicator pathogens. The third component of monitoring requires that the discharge be tested for residual biocides in accordance with the monitoring schedule contained in the VGP. And now the US state local regulations. New York. Any vessel covered by the VGP whose voyages originates outside the exclusive economic zone and enters New York state waters is required to conduct ballast water exchange or flushing beyond the exclusive economic zone, at least 200 nautical miles from any shore and in waters at least 2,000 meters deep, resulting in a salinity level of 30 ppt. This requirement remains in effect regardless of whether the vessel is equipped with a ballast water management system. Ballast water tank monitoring must be done to ensure at least 30 ppt salinity level. Ballast water must always be loaded and discharged via pump. No gravity feed or discharge is permitted. Ballast water monitoring reports must be submitted to state annually, and discharge of bilge water is prohibited. And finally, California. Currently, the regulations do provide for ballast water exchange with specific regulations addressing both mid-ocean and coastal exchange. Vessels are required to have a ballast water management plan, ballast water logbook, and are required to submit a ballast water reporting form after departing from a California port. In addition to the exchange option, vessels may retain all ballast on board, discharge to the same location, if unmixed, use alternate management systems with the prior approval of the state or Coast Guard, discharge to a state-approved reception facilities, or under extraordinary circumstances exchange in an alternative location approved by the state. With respect to the state of California, the local authorities, the California State Lands Commission, have proposed changes to the original plans for implementing their ballast water treatment's performance standards. This does not mean that the actual standards or the implementation schedule are changing, as both the standards and the implementation schedule are contained in California state law, and as such can only be changed by the state legislature, and there would be a lack of political will to change the law. In other words, the state does not have the authority to change the law, but rather the way in which the verification of the law is conducted. California is proposing amendments to current provisions to enhance vessel compliance protocol by clarifying terminology and developing requirements for sample ports and sample collection and analysis. So that was all. Thank you very much.